You're listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out REIARadio.com.
This episode is brought to you by PropStream.
PropStream is one of the most trusted real estate data software solutions. PropStream benefits all real estate professionals. You can find properties and contact homeowners on the go with PropStream's mobile app. We offer free academy courses tailored to real estate investors and agents. Take advantage of our live webinar demos to learn the software and scale your real estate business. Visit www.propstream.com and sign up for your 7-day free trial to get more leads and grow your business.
Welcome to REIA Radio, episode 167 with Owen Dashner.
And Kaasch.
Why can't you give me the same excitement that I give you?
I can't match
you're
your.
so anticlimactic. Get on the same wavelength, buddy.
That's what my wife says. Did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did. And Jennifer, I hope you listen to this episode.
It's not Jennifer, for God's sake. 20 years I've been telling you this. It's Jen.
I have not known you for 20 years.
Whatever.
Not even close.
It's not Jennifer. She doesn't go by that. Nobody calls her that, Ted. Anyway, how are you?
She told me to call her that.
No, she did not.
In the truck the other day, would you get us a ride to the airport?
Was that when
She's
your
like,
truck broke down and had multiple system failures?
That was this morning, thank you. And
what happened with that, dude? Tell
I literally was driving, and then the ABS completely kicked in, and then all of a sudden my truck lit up like a Christmas tree, and it was like brake failure, system failure, this failure, that failure, immediate service required. And I'm like, oh my gosh! So I took my son to basketball. It was actually last night. I took my son to basketball last night. Took it back home. I'm like, okay, parked in the driveway, get in it this morning, and it says, critical system failure cannot turn on. And then if you have an electric truck, it is like having a brick. Because like normally you're like, oh, if I have a regular car, I'm just going to put a neutral, roll it down the driveway, and leave it in the street.
You can't do that with
No, it is bricked out and doesn't move. It is blocking all the garages. And because I'm like, oh, I got my Mustang in the garage, and I'll just take the kids to school in the Mustang and have it towed. No, that's not an option. So I got really mad, and I just started pushing that power button like 40 times. And I was screaming like curse words at it, and I was push. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, woosah. And then after like having my calm moment there.
What the hell is woosah?
Woosah, so you're calming when you rub your ears. You never seen Anger Management, the movie?
No.
Oh, you got to see it. It's hilarious.
No.
So Anger Management, when they're calming down, they would just say woosah and they rub your ears.
Okay, listen.
Okay,
if you're trying to appeal to a larger audience, I don't think pulling out an obscure movie quote is probably the way to go. But I do it all the time.
Most people know woosahs.
Please,
just know.
Do they?
Yeah.
Aiden? But 2 out of 3 people
watch
in this
Anger
room
Management.
Did not know it.
Okay,
just saying.
1 out of 3 did.
Majority did not. That didn't hurt. By the way, he just threw a pen at me. Oh, it's stuck in your nipple.
Right in my nipple.
Anyway, I'm kind of a ninja.
Anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna treat my electric vehicle like a computer do a restart. So I pushed the button and I held it for like 60 seconds,
angrily,
very angrily, and then all of a sudden I let go, and the whole thing restarted. All the lights were off, and it started up.
And you were able to move it, no problem. Like, did they all go off?
Everything went away, and everything worked.
So no big deal.
And I went to the dealership. No, I took it to the dealership. They had a rental for me, ready to go. And they're like, I never knew that would work.
Dude, what in the hell? You just brute forced your way through like fixing an electric vehicle.
It just started working.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be awesome if like all electronics you could just punch them or whatever and they would just restart?
Well, I'm like if it's my iPhone, I'm just gonna hold it until it restarts, right? And then I'm just gonna push a button for 60 seconds, see what happens, and nothing was going on special. But then as soon as I let go and hit it again, ooh, it all worked.
You're such an idiot.
I'm gonna post that on my Ford Lightning page.
You did?
I'm going to.
Oh, you have a Ford Lightning page?
There's like 21,000 people on it. People post any issues.
That doesn't mean you have to be on it.
Heck yeah, it does.
Oh, okay.
I'm on a Mustang page.
You're such a car geek.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I don't even know where to go from here. What is going on with you this week?
My God. My biggest challenge this week has been plumbing.
Okay.
So I'm not going to get property specific, but I bought a property and it happened to have PVC plumbing going up and down, up and down unit type of situation.
What, drain lines? So you're
Yes.
talking, okay.
And so I'm getting water lines installed for a washer and dryer, thinking that everything else is fine. And the plumber comes in, he's like,
looking around,
yeah,
whistling.
He's like, yeah, this isn't the way things are supposed to be. And I'm still waiting for like the final quote right now. But this is like, so just so you guys know, Omaha, you can go to 4-state territory and you can be fine with PVC. But in Omaha, Nebraska, you have to have cast iron going up and down if it's an up-down duplex. And so now I'm putting cast iron in. I was already fixing anything that wasn't copper already. We were going to put copper lines in for the washer and dryer. So it's just becoming a big, big nightmare. And I got a buyer. This is like ready to close, and now I'm dealing with this. So literally, as soon as I walk out of this, I'm calling the plumber to see where we're at with things.
So my understanding of Omaha code is you can have PVC in a two unit property, but
side by side, not up and down.
That was their direction on that?
Yes.
Okay. Are you really glad you pulled the permit?
Yes. Yes, I am. And so we've been following all of the legal procedures and doing this all right. And I'm also selling this to a person that one person, which is a gym friend of mine. Another person is somebody's been on the podcast. I won't name drop them just because we're getting through this. And I've known them for over 20 years and they're partners. And I just want to make sure I don't want any bad, blood between them on getting. I want to make sure it's 100% right. If they go through a rental inspection down the road, I would just be in a terrible position if they got the property shut down. And I had a learning lesson recently. And I think I brought this up. I have a 3-unit for sale, and the contractor they hired didn't get licensed plumbers, and they went ahead and just kind of commingled the water lines. In Omaha, you can't do that. And so
they had PEX, copper, PVC, CPVC.
This one was PVC and copper.
Yep.
And the city, to teach them a lesson, which I love lessons being taught by the city personally, they have now come through and said, oh, you have to tear out every single water line and every single drain line and start fresh. Right. Even though everything works fine. Everything's compliant if you were in any other county surrounding our county.
Yep.
But now the bid now is at 31,000. All 3 tenants have to be moved. They're under leases. And then another 10,000 to fix it because some of the water lines are under the basement floor concrete.
Perfect.
So they have to jackhammer the floor up on a brand new, freshly remodeled place that looks absolutely amazing, and is probably one of the nicest properties in the whole entire neighborhood.
Yeah, isn't it great? I mean,
it's stupid,
and they wonder why people don't pull permits. I mean, we've talked about this before, like on various episodes, but yeah, like you wonder why, like, people decide to skip the permitting process. That's why, because it's going to cost you like tens and tens of thousands of dollars to redo things. But I'm not advocating not doing that, but like there's a reason why people avoid it.
In this case, though, if in that case of the triplex, if the contractor would have done right by it and just fixed the lines like he was supposed to, done copper, this would have been probably a $3,000 or $5,000 deal. But now with moving tenants out, the fees and the building the units back up after you tear out all the walls and everything of this brand new refinished unit, this could exceed $50,000.
So you can't like put the tenants up for a couple of days while they do the work. It shouldn't take that long.
They're saying between the rip out, replace, and it could be up to 2 weeks.
Okay.
So but yeah, I mean, yes, that's the plan right now, but it's not convenient.
No. And I'd be pissed if I was living in a rental property and like something like that happened where I was like, I have to pack, like you're saying I have to go somewhere else for 2 weeks. Like I'd be
and everything works totally fine.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is during that rental inspection, they came across a whole bunch of other stuff that were done initially. So he spent close to $80,000 on the initial rental inspection. He had to replace huge retaining walls that they thought had a lean to them. And then they had one heat source in the building, a single furnace. So they actually made him so he had to do electrical heat in each unit. And then had to add, because he did electrical heat, he had to upgrade all the electrical systems.
Okay.
And so this client has got properties in Omaha. He's like, and he's from the East Coast, and he's like, I'm done with Omaha.
Don't blame him.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
He's like, I will never invest here again because of the rental inspections and how they act with this. and so I'm just having visions of him as I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I am not. I mean, my reputation means more to me than anything. So I'm like, oh, got to do it right.
Sure. Yeah. This seems like a good spot to jump into our
Golden Nugget. And this Golden Nugget is brought to you by Timber Creek Virtual.
At Timber Creek Virtual, we don't just keep your business running, we take it to the next level. Our virtual and executive assistants handle all the everyday tasks so you can focus on what really matters, growing your business. Need clarity on your financial performance? Our expert bookkeeping services keep everything organized, so you always know where your business stands. With our seamless transaction coordination, you never have to worry about the details. Just close the deal. We've got you covered with cutting-edge digital marketing, proactive lead generation, and expert acquisition management. Plus, we handle the cold calling and messaging too. Let us handle the big C part so you can handle your business. Visit timbercreekvirtual.com/services and see how we can make your business soar.
Hey guys, never underestimate the ROI of a good plumbing inspection. Like when it comes to plumbing, every time I work with a client, you can put your eyes on things, but bring a plumber in, because for the $150, you can get a plumbing scope. You can find tree roots, corroded pipes. You want to have copper pipes, water lines, or the red and blue lines. What are those called? PEX. Those are good ones, but there's corroded water lines. Check your water pressure. Like if you're just doing an initial walkthrough, turn on every single faucet in the place, right? Flush the toilets, turn on the sinks and the showers and the tubs, run everything. Let the drains fill up. Go look in the basement and see if there's water filling up from the floor. That's a good first step. But getting that plumbing inspection and the sewer scope is probably the most more important things you can do. And if you don't do this, that can eat your profits away immediately. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say that is probably more heating and air, roofs, and plumbing. You could throw electrical, and your systems are going to be the ones that kill everything.
Yep.
Like generally, you walk through a house, the cosmetics are like. Let's say you're looking at flooring, paint, fixtures, cosmetics. That stuff is what you see, right? But the stuff that's operating the house, which is the mechanicals, like plumbing, like Ted's talking about, can be thousands and thousands of dollars.
Plumbing can be the most, in my opinion, one of the worst of all of them.
Yeah, and exactly. Water causes more damage than anything other than, like, let's say electricity caused a fire. That's the only other thing that can cause a more catastrophic situation.
Well,
water is terrible.
When I'm walking a property, if I'm looking at an electrical box and it's got screw and fuses, I'm like, okay, that's $3,000. That's an easy fix.
Mm-hmm.
And you can generally see the roof. Is there waves in the roof, right? Like, okay, well, if I got to resheet that and everything, you can put a budget on that and be like 10, 15,000. Plumbing is the unknown. Like, do I got to tear up the street? Do I got to tear up the basement?
Yep.
Are all the water lines got to come out? Do I got to tear out the walls? That's a whole nother game.
Yep.
And I feel like everything else, you can kind of put a number to it, but you can't see the plumbing in full. And there's also a lot of flippers out there that are really good about not replacing the plumbing, but make it look like it has good plumbing for the plumbing inspector to come through.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it has the proper plumbing going into the wall, but what you don't know what's behind that wall.
Yep.
You see cast iron coming down, and where you need cast iron, but you don't know if it's all plastic above it.
Now, I want to jump in here with something, because while you were describing this, I was nodding the whole time because I agree with everything you just said. But I've also been in situations as a flipper where you get into really tight budget situations where you either are going to lose money or you are trying to minimize the amount of damage that is going to be done by let's face it, when you buy a house, you don't know what you're buying sometimes.
True.
Just to the point that you're talking about. Let's say you do a sewer scope and you find stuff and you're like, okay, well, I can deal with that. Or let's say you don't do one and then you're going to absorb everything that happened. My point to all this is sometimes you have to make tough choices on what you can spend money on and what you can't when you're rehabbing a house. If you buy a 1950s, 60s, or let's say it's even older than that house, you cannot rehab everything in the house generally and make a profit. You can't expect to be in business for very long if you're doing all this stuff for free or negative money, right?
Well, one part of the conversation that we've had so many times is that, my business model up to this point has been buying condemned homes.
Right.
But I'm also buying condemned homes that are really cheap, and so I can look at that property and say, oh, it needs everything. I know it needs all the plumbing, all the electrical, all this, all that.
Yeah, you're basically doing new build the most part.
But in the end, I'm like, but if it didn't need all electrical, if it didn't need all the plumbing, I'm getting a win, right? And so I'm saving money. But I'm also buying those houses right. So you can't go into one of those properties and spend $70,000 or $80,000 in most cases, because it doesn't make sense. A lot of those houses I'm buying for $10,000, $12,000, $40,000, $70,000, and I'm doing a really good pro forma, and I'm also bringing in my contractors and my individual people, my plumber, my electrician, and my roofer with me to get those bids to get an idea. So just because you hear me saying I like the condemned houses, don't think that this is the best thing for you, because they are a pain in the butt and they take forever.
They do. I don't buy them. Like, I've been doing this for 20
great
years.
For hold. If you're going to long-term hold something, I think there's a lot of value to that. But if you're a flipper, don't go down that road ever.
Yeah. I could debate you on this, but we'll say that.
But you kind of see my concept there, though?
No, I do. You're basically talking about new construction. I mean, essentially, once you rebuild something that's condemned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I just think that, flippers in general, and granted, there are well-deserved cases of this, but I think flippers in general get a bad rap. A lot of times they're like, oh, the flippers just put lipstick on a pig, and they just, put paint and carpet in. And
some
whatever.
do.
But my counter argument to that is like, okay, what would a homeowner do? Like, let's say a homeowner bought that and it's a fixer-upper. And that's my counter argument to all these kind of like woke arguments out there where people are like, oh, it's the real estate investors that are causing the market, situation. And like, that's the reason that there's no affordable housing and whatever. And
we're the reason there is housing.
I'm like, okay, so you're going to tell me you're going to buy this cat piss laden house that I completely turned around and put 80 grand into. You're going to go, a John and Susie homeowner are going to go out and buy that? No, that they're not. Absolutely not.
That house is going to be condemned, and it's going to be full of squatters.
And guess what? It's going to be deleted from the available homes inventory list. So nobody is going to be able to buy it.
We make the real estate world go round.
Exactly. So that's my, and I've been on.
I love how fired up you are right now.
I've jumped into these like threads that I've seen online where people are just like totally trashing flippers and real estate investors. And I've like completely shut down threads before with that argument. I'm like, okay, if a flipper doesn't buy this, who is going to buy it? Are you going to buy it? Mm-hmm. And then there's like crickets after that. They're like, what is going to happen to this house if a real estate investor that knows what they're doing doesn't come along and buy it? Are you going to buy it? No, you're not. You don't know what to do with this. Like, why don't you let somebody that knows what they're doing buy it? And yes, there's some that are better than others. There's some that are worse than others. But that doesn't mean that every single house that's potential inventory out there could possibly be absorbed and a happy family is going to move into it. That's not how the world works. There's shitty houses out there that people need to do something with, and the only ones that can are people that do this for a living, right?
I love it when you're renovating one of those the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And the house next to you is actually worse than yours, condemned. And it's like got a hoard out. I got one of those situations right now, and the house next to me is like destroyed and terrible.
Yeah.
But every time I show up for that project, guess who's coming at me and complaining?
The neighbor.
The neighbor.
Yeah.
I can't believe how much mess you're making. I can't believe that your fence isn't up yet. And I'm looking at this yard.
Yeah.
This is a no shit situation.
It looks like a jail.
No, it is complete. Like the fencing is all bowing over and about to fall into my yard because their backyard's so full, and they have 17 cats. And there's probably a handful of dogs, and everybody's got a disease, and And then they gave us permission to go through the backyard to do some pavement work in the backyard of this one. They were making a really nice patio in. And then the guy just comes out and tripping. Oh, did you see my backyard and how terrible it looks? I'm like, yeah, we're going to lay grass seed out as we promised. And thank you so much for letting me access to your backyard. And it'll look prettier than it did before. And by the way, my guy offered to replane your whole entire backyard and take out all your crap, by the way. I'm like, dude. Seriously, I can't believe it. But like, anyway,
People are the worst.
My rant is done. This episode is brought to you by JM Real Estate Capital.
Hi, it's Rob, JM Real Estate Capital. We're the money guys that you need to know for all your real estate investments. Talk to us. We can do what your local bank can't or won't do. We don't have millions. We have trillions with a T to lend. 844-we close or go online at jmrecapital.com. That's jmrecapital.com. JM Real Estate Capital, smart solutions for the real estate investor.
Hey, man, I want to bring up something before we get too long in the tooth here. So, you know how we, in our regular like Wednesday podcast, we talk about what, who's going to speak your eulogy and what will they say and all that. Like,
yeah, did it hit you?
Yeah, so it really did. So for the first time in my life, I actually got up and gave a memorial at my brother-in-law's funeral.
Yeah,
which was the day after Thanksgiving.
You did some preparation on this too.
I did.
Yeah.
But I made some, as I normally do with like podcast and life in general. I crammed right beforehand, and I was sitting there thinking about what I could do to honor him and tell a good story and do it justice to his life. Those of you that don't know, so my brother-in-law Chris passed away after a long battle with cancer. He beat the prognosis by a couple of years. Really sad story. His son, who was 25, Cole, passed away also this year from cancer. So both of them had cancer.
And both of these guys were part of your team.
Both of them worked, with me.
Yeah.
Cole had a landscaping and business, and then he was really ambitious. Just newly married, had a young daughter, and then Chris, outlived his son, which is horrible. It sucked. Chris was 65 when he passed away, and he was working for me up until very recently, and he was living in one of my rental houses, a couple of different rental houses actually. And I'm only bringing this up because it was very hard on our family, and we're still kind of dealing with the aftermath. And at the funeral, I was asked I'm more comfortable generally. Obviously, I have a podcast here, so I'm more generally comfortable speaking in front of people than most. So I got asked to give basically a memorial, so like a 3 to 5 minute speech on Chris and what he was to me and his life and so forth. And I got up and started talking, and I had kind of a little bit of a plan before I got up there, and then I freaking lost it like within 10 seconds. And the funny thing is, like, Jen, my wife, beforehand, I hadn't really shared with her kind of like where I was going with the whole memorial thing. And it wasn't like a big reveal or anything, but I just hadn't talked about it. And I said, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking. And I kind of started talking about it. In my head, I was like, oh, I'm going to be fine. This is great. I'm going to give a great, service to him and so forth. And then I started like getting into it, and I was just like a blubbering mess after about 10 seconds. It's really hard.
Sorry, man.
So I got up and gave this memorial, and here's what I imagined for this. It was he worked his whole life in service of his God. So he was a Christian man, and that was his biggest thing. He was a believer through and through, and the most believable believer that I've ever met in my life, if that makes sense.
That's a statement.
Yeah. And
that's my grandmother.
He was very, very, very strong believers. Yeah. And so, I wanted to give homage to that, and also talk about what a hard worker he was and all that stuff. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that not everyone is perfect, and there are, fixer-upper people out there. But I wanted to focus on the positive. And for him, I kind of gave a comparison of, you remember that show with Ty Pennington a while back? It was
with the house.
No, it was the Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Yeah,
And
the bus was in front of it.
Yeah, so I kind of made an analogy of Extreme Makeover Chris Edition because he worked with his hands his whole life and built houses and remodeled things for me and also not for me, and how he was basically like resurrected through that. And anyway, I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this, but I got like super emotional. It was the most emotional speech or like public speaking thing I've ever done. And I'm tying this back to, because we ask every guest that comes on this show, who would they like to speak their eulogy and what do you think they would say about you? And it hit me full force last week.
That you want me there?
Yeah. So yeah. But no, I actually thought I might start crying on this, but I was really, really emotional.
I know I was trying to make light of it.
So
did you repivot your thought process on it?
On the whole eulogy thing?
Yeah.
Yes, I did rethink this a little bit. I think that when you get to the point where it's actually your funeral and like you're gone, right? So that doesn't matter. There's an audience there. And I rethought it because I realize now how scared to death people are of actually getting up and talking. And so my picture in my head of like, I just want everybody to like tell stories and have a good time in a celebration of life type of a vein. I realize now how few people are actually going to latch onto that and say, hey, I'm going to get up and tell like a favorite story of mine about Owen or about, Ted or whoever it is. Because there's such a small percentage of people that are able to actually do that.
That's why
you know what I mean?
My mentality of this whole point is like, I don't know if I want my kids to get it. I just want like some of my best friends to go up there and just tell a story.
That's where I'm at now. Like, I don't care if it's my kids or I don't care if it's my loved ones or whatever. But if somebody that really knows me and has a really good story and they're that kind of thing, that's what I would want.
That's exactly where I'm at.
And I don't know if I did a great job or not, but I was so nervous and so emotional. Like I was kind of a wreck, but I kind of held it together without crying until afterwards. And then I was a sobbing mess.
Deep question.
Yeah.
Do you think if you would ask Chris that question, if he would have said he wanted you to speak?
I think if I asked him,
that had to go through your head.
Yeah. I think if I asked him, I think he would have been good with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think he would have appreciated that.
Because that's a deep moment right there. I don't think that question would be as deep if it wasn't for it being a part of our weekly questions we ask.
Yeah, I do think
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think he would. I think he would have given me the green light on that because,
awesome.
like, for a second there, I was power of attorney on his.
He chose that.
Yes,
so that answers the question.
Yeah.
Right
so, but. Whatever this, I mean, like I feel like this is going the wrong direction. I'm nothing to.
That's awesome.
With that, I just like it was a very emotional moment
because
for me.
He asked you to do that. I do think that it does coordinate with that. So I think you're right on, and I think that because you brought that, I think you bring it up justifies all that question I asked you.
Yeah.
So no, I don't. I think it wasn't way off. I think it was right on. So I appreciate the fact you sharing that because you don't like to get too vulnerable.
No, not at all. This is weird. I can't actually believe I actually said this. But,
I talked about testosterone.
Yes, you did. TRT, baby.
This episode is brought to you by Magic Door.
Magic Door is the AI-powered property management platform designed to handle everything from the rent cycle to the vacancy and maintenance cycles. During the rent cycle, Magic Door collects rent, sends automatic reminders, deducts management fees, and distributes payments to owners. In the vacancy cycle, Magic Door streamlines listings, tenant applications, seamless multi-language communication, screening tenants, and converting applications into leases with one click. And for the maintenance cycle, Magic Door's AI handles everything, asking tenants key questions, assigning tasks to vendors, and scheduling repairs automatically without you getting involved. With no hidden fees, no onboarding costs, and seamless AI-powered automation, Magic Door takes care of the entire property management lifecycle so you can focus on what matters most.
So, hey, appreciate you getting vulnerable. Appreciate you sharing. I hope that everybody listening got some content out of this today. We kind of just shoot the shit on this episode. The plumbing side of it is serious, guys. Like, it's your business. When you're going to check out these properties, you can't just pass by all this stuff. You got to look at this stuff. When we talk about this, you got to look at the roof. You got to look at this. You got to look at the siding. You got to look at the windows. You're going to have to look at the mechanicals. Like, don't pass on this stuff. This is important, and you're going to screw yourself in this business, and you're not going to make it past 1 or 2 properties if you don't take our advice here. Owen's done hundreds of properties. I've not done hundreds, but I do huge renovations, and I see the stuff that goes wrong. The other thing is, you know, what's more important than getting all that stuff figured out is choosing your partner.
Also true. It's a good point. So not to belabor it, but if you're new in the business and you're like, I don't know what all needs repaired in a house, absolutely you should get a home inspection. I would say do that your first 10 houses, if not more.
And if you can't, and it's a purchase that you can't get a home inspector, bring that person along with you as your quote unquote business partner.
Yeah, or get a really good contractor that's going to notice a lot of stuff that's wrong. So anyway, that is a bonus nugget on the nugget.
I love nuggets on nuggets.
You know you do.
Well, with that, let's wrap up today's episode of 167 of REIA Radio with the fantastic Owen Dashner
and Ted Kaasch and Aiden Bear. Thanks for joining us in the Real Estate
Rundown.